2.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's Montgomery County Media Briefing with County Executive Marc Elrich. My name is Rich Madalino. I serve as the county's Chief Administrative Officer. Today, we're going to be talking about the great news happening across Montgomery County over the last week and an update on our health conditions with Dr. Bridgers, Dr. Stoddard, Dr. Davis, and Sean O'Connell. So a plethora of doctors on this week before Christmas. And now we'll turn it over to the County Executive, Marc Elrich.
So thank you all for joining us again today. And Rich, thank you for the introduction. I want to start by saying I was glad to see some good news this week about Sergeant Patrick Kep. I think if you remember, he is the officer who lost his legs in a really tragic event where an incredibly reckless driver who had been harassing police for a while had an accident and wound up striking the officer, and it cost him his legs. It's good to see him doing physical therapy at Walter Reed and sharing his thoughts as he begins his recovery. I know his goal is to one day serve the community again in a similar role to what he was doing before, and taking dangerous drivers off the road. I look forward to his being able to return. His fortitude and drive to put his experience as a patrol officer to use again for Montgomery County is really inspiring. It's also important to share that my office has been in contact with state lawmakers about following through on efforts to make dangerous driving a more serious offense. We need to crack down on excessive speeding and people who use their cars as weapons. To treat this as simply another traffic accident understates what was done here and the deliberateness of the recklessness of this driver. And these are the kind of things that need to be criminal and not just simply something you get a ticket for. And we're going to work with the state legislature to make sure that we can bring about some appropriate laws to deal with this. I want to thank Sergeant Kep for his dedication to our community and wish him and his family the best as he continues to recover. Yesterday, I was joined by Governor Wes Moore, Comptroller Brooke Learman, several members of the Montgomery County State Delegation, and members of the County Council, and welcoming Choice Hotels International into its new home for 400 employees at the Pike and Rose in North Bethesda. We cut the ribbon on the new headquarters for the hospitality company, which is moving from Rockville. Choice was first founded in Montgomery County by the Bainham family more than 60 years ago, and they're an important reason why we are a global hospitality epicenter. The 400 employees working at this new headquarters location are in a space and location designed for collaboration and innovation. It's a great space that's going to help further development in North Bethesda as a regional destination to live, work, shop, and dine. I look forward to eventually seeing how the proximity to the technology at the University of Maryland Institute for Health Computing will help Choice in our hospitality companies. While we talk about the new institute is focused on health computing, the AI programs there actually have broader applications to non-health as well as hospitality uses. So it's going to be a real boon for the county in multiple ways. Last Friday, we had another big announcement from the biotech company United Therapeutics. They're going to expand their downtown Silver Spring operations, which currently employ about 230 people. They're doing some amazing work on regenerative medicine in downtown Silver Spring, and they're planning to grow their campus by 40% to include a new organ production facility. This partnership allows United Therapeutics to expand its vision to address rare and underserved diseases while ushering in a new era of economic growth in Silver Spring. We are swapping out an old parking garage, and in return, the county is going to get a new garage with state-of-the-art fiber hub to replace our existing fiber hub for better connectivity, a new retail space, and eventually affordable housing. United Therapeutics is a homegrown company that is also a social benefit corporation, and that adds to the vibrancy of downtown Silver Spring. They have an amazing building in downtown, and I'm looking forward to their architecture because they always seem to do interesting things with the buildings they put up. It's great news for the community and for the company and for the patients who will eventually benefit from the therapies. And the value of this deal is going to be over $100 million invested by United Therapeutics without the need for public money. I'm thrilled that together we've accomplished this, and I know many on the county council share my enthusiasm for the project. I look forward to working with them on this and other improvements to downtown Silver Spring. Last Friday, the committee from Montgomery brought together federal, state, and local leaders, as well as community groups, businesses, and nonprofits for its annual meeting in advance of the General Assembly session. And I told everyone gathered about the biggest challenge we have moving the county forward right now, which is funding for transportation. Currently, we have to rely on solutions that come from the state. Montgomery County, like other counties in the state of Maryland, do not have authority to raise revenues, unlike Northern Virginia, which means that if the project isn't funded at the state level, it's very hard for counties to build the projects they need. Again, Montgomery County, not the only one in this box. As I mentioned before, I continue to think the counties across Maryland have to have the authority and ability to create their own solutions to some of these challenges, similar to what's been done in Northern Virginia. State money is still needed and appreciated for large infrastructure projects, but we have to do more because this is about investing in our future for the infrastructure we need. The changes in Virginia that they made to their tax structure enabled them to garner hundreds of millions of dollars in tax revenues from development that's been used to build critical infrastructure. We have to continue to make progress on this. Unlike Montgomery County, Virginia has been able to build things that we cannot even approach building, and their ability to raise their own revenues at the scale they've been able to raise it has made an enormous difference. Transportation is often cited as one of the critical components of successful economic development. And this is an area where we have clearly lagged Northern Virginia. And, you know, we have a lot of people say, look at Northern Virginia. That's nice. If you're looking at Northern Virginia and you like what you see, you have to ask yourself, how did they get it? They didn't get it by having lower taxes than us. They got it by having higher taxes, but by taking those revenues and investing those revenues in infrastructure, which in turn improved the business climate for the businesses that they were trying to attract there. So they found the symbiotic way to raise taxes and benefit the business community. And we need to look at what Virginia has done and done successfully if we want to be able to produce the kind of results that they've produced. We also have to continue to make progress on affordable housing. Since 2019, we've produced 13 affordable housing units over the last 4 years, even through the pandemic. Another 1,850 have been preserved. But we're trying to address a problem that's been around for 40 years. Our moderately priced housing program is almost 50 years old, and it's only produced a little less than 7,000 units over all those years. We continually see more affordable housing lost in a typical year than we're able to replace. And when I say lost, I don't mean it disappeared. I mean that rents continually rose until much of the housing is no longer affordable, or affordable housing was knocked down and replaced by luxury housing. That's not a path we can continue to stay on. We have to find ways to provide housing for everybody who's going to live and work in Montgomery County. And that's requiring changes, and we're working on that. We're working with community partners and finding creative solutions to ensure that we can put ourselves on a better and more equitable path. And not only are we protecting and preserving current homes, we're producing them too. These are two of the many items that our budget is going to address. Just this month, we learned that revenue anticipated having at this time back in the summer was underestimated. In other words, we are in a strong economy, and our reserves are now 17%, well above our target of 10%. This is good news, gives us more flexibility as we put together the FY25 operating budget and our capital improvement budget. It's also good news for from the Fed last week that its interest rates are not going to be increased anymore, and a signal that they might actually be lowered in the new year. The level of the interest rate is going to be very critical to our capital projects, as well as helping the revenue we receive from housing transactions. The county's income taxes and general property taxes have been very healthy. But because of the severe downturn in the housing market, which is obviously not just a Montgomery County problem, but a nationwide wide problem and attributed to the extremely high interest rates. Montgomery County actually lost about $40 million in revenue compared, to what we expected. And that, put a dent in what we had, but it was more than offset by the gains in, income and general property taxes. So the news could have been better. News wasn't as bad as it could have been. And, we're pretty optimistic about where we sit though. Last week, Dr. McKnight proposed a budget to the Board of Education that's $150 million over last year's budget. Depending on what passes the Board of Education and gets sent over to us, that level of increase is going to force us to make some tough decisions over the upcoming weeks. We're going to have discussions with the school board. I can assure you that accountability is a major issue. It's an issue being raised not just by me, but by the council as well. And we're going to have a lot to say in terms of how we look at this budget. Hopefully, in the long run, we're going to figure out better ways to work with the school board so that their budgets aren't created in a vacuum. And when I say that, I mean that they're making decisions on the side of the budget before they even know what the county's economic projections are. That's a little bit difficult to do, and making assumptions about what it's available before you know it's available is a real problem. And we would like to align our processes better than they are today. I thought it'd be helpful to all of you to get a quick budget outlook update from Rich, as well as understand the important dates in our budget process, as well as the upcoming General Assembly schedule. So I'm going to stop talking now and turn it over to Rich to give you more information about the budget.
Thank you very much, County Executive Elrich. Just to reiterate, just want to make sure everyone heard you correctly, Mark, that there are 1,300 new affordable units that have been created. I think you may have accidentally said 13.
13. Okay. No, it's 1,300. Definitely.
1,300. Just wanted to make sure everyone knew it was 1,300.
If it was 13, I wouldn't have even mentioned it. That would be embarrassing.
With an additional 1,900 preserved in the county. So as the county executive said, our revenue outlook is in fact strong. We closed out fiscal year 23, which ended on June 30th, in historic territory as far as the amount of money that we have in reserve, the level of the reserves. It speaks to the I think prudent management of this administration and the responsible approach to spending that the county executive has insisted on over the last 5 years. As a reminder, when the county executive came into office, he was gifted that first holiday season with a $90 million surprise deficit that we had about 2 weeks to close. Reserves were far below the 10% level. And here we are 5 short years later. We have not only met the statutory goal, gone well beyond it, which has left us in a place where we've turned that $90 million deficit into a $450 million surplus, and we've met our statutory goals. We have almost a 98% funded pension system, and we're the envy of the state when it comes to the money that we have set aside for employee health benefits. So we are in a very strong position over the last 5 years. Now, some of you may be following local news about some of our neighboring jurisdictions and how they're doing. And you hear reports, especially out of the district and out of Fairfax, about their budgetary problems. It's important to note that Maryland has a different tax structure for local governments than certainly DC, which is a unitary entity, and then Northern Virginia. Because of the income tax, we have a degree, the local income tax, we have a degree of stability that other jurisdictions don't have. DC and Virginia both get the sales tax receipts. And if you looked at the state's revenue projections this past week, the sales tax at the state level has underperformed its estimates by a small amount, but enough to cause a more than $100 million reduction in the state's sales tax forecast. But you can see with that level of impact in Maryland that I'm sure in Northern Virginia and DC, they're experiencing similar things. So they are in a more difficult spot in trying to balance their budget. So just trying to level set expectations about why things are different in Rockville than they are across the river or downtown. So it's a combination of a good tax structure, strong management, a tradition that we've had in Montgomery County that has certainly been kept by the Elrich administration. And then the strong performance of our local economy. We have a lot of people, record low unemployment, which means everyone is employed and people are paying taxes, and that's coming into our bottom line and certainly into the state's bottom line. So we have a prudent forecast moving forward. We're anticipating a slight recession. Should that not materialize, because we obviously had to do our forecast well before the Fed meeting last week, we will be in an even better situation. And then, as the county executive was talking about, our real estate taxes, transfer recordation taxes, that part of the economy has slowed tremendously because mortgage rates have gone to a level higher than they've been in the last 2 or 3 decades, which has slowed tremendously the housing market. As soon as those numbers come down, there is pent-up demand to buy housing. And so we will probably see a sharp rebound to those numbers. We, of course, have a prudent forecast that does not anticipate an upswing in the real estate market. I'm just laying it out there that should, as the Mortgage Bankers Association prediction come true, that mortgage rates fall below 5% by the end of calendar year 2024, I think you would see a very different housing market and then a very different set of tax receipts for the county government off its real estate taxes. The General Assembly session starts in just a few weeks, I think actually 3 weeks from today, on January 10th. The governor will submit a budget later that week for both the operating and capital budget for the state of Maryland. Their revenue outlook continues to be strong. The revenue estimates that came in December made marginal changes. So we look forward to working with the Moore Miller administration. I think the county executive talked about at last week's committee for Montgomery, what a change of pace it is to deal with an administration that wants to work with us, that is soliciting ideas, that is being collaborative, and how much easier that makes it for us and our work in moving the Montgomery County forward. On January 16th, which happens to be a Tuesday this year because Monday the 15th is the Martin Luther King holiday, the county executive will release his 6-year capital improvement program, our capital budget. Every 2 years, the county executive proposes a 6-year plan. So this is that on cycle 2 years. So it will be an update to the full 6 years worth of spending. So that includes 2 new fiscal years at the end of the cycle. So look forward to information coming out about what we are going to be spending on our capital budget. And that ranges everything from schools to roads to transit, to rec centers, libraries, the full panoply of things that we are responsible for from a capital budget standpoint. And of course, our operating budget will be released on March 15th. And again, as the county executive was talking about with the school systems budget, part of the challenge of budgeting in Maryland is we have dates that are required for any county executive in the charter to release information. Of course, he has to propose a budget on March 15th, which is a month before the General Assembly finishes. So we've got to put up a budget plan that where we're taking best guesses about how the state budget is going to end up with the General Assembly session at the beginning of April. The superintendent had to propose a budget last week without knowing what our revenue estimates are. So one of the things you heard him talk about, and I think we're going to be working with our colleagues in the Maryland Association of Counties, is trying to realign some of these dates so that spending proposals that are put up are realistic. So the worst thing to say to the community is, I'm going to spend X amount of money, and then 2 weeks later, those numbers change. So if we can align those things better, so that we can, again, have proper expectations for our community, that will be successful. So that's a little bit about what to expect. over the next few months when it comes to spending proposals. But again, always knock on wood, but our revenues remain very strong. And with the exciting news that the county executive just laid out, the Choice expanding its presence by moving into new facilities in North Bethesda, the announcement about United Therapeutics expanding, the AstraZeneca's recent announcement about their expansion in the county, and other things to come. In our hospitality industry, in our life sciences industry, we're seeing continued investment and in many cases job growth, which is valuable for our community. And as the county executive always says, that additional growth helps pay for the programs that the people want. And then, of course, if we can solve the infrastructure problem, which he has been talking about relentlessly, nonstop, to anyone who will listen, if we can get our infrastructure situation straightened out so that we can actually compete with Virginia. I think I heard him last Friday say, if someone is stealing your lunch money, you got to figure it out sooner or later. And we look to this model in Virginia, which has been successful at building infrastructure. This is a path that Maryland should follow suit. And it's great to have a partner in Governor Moore who is interested in trying to find some of these solutions. So with that, are there any questions from reporters about some of the issues that the county executive has covered right now, the budget, some of the exciting news? Because we'll open it up for questions, and then if there aren't, we'll move on to a few other remarks from Marc, and of course, the update from our HHS colleagues. Questions from the reporters? Heather, nothing? Okay. Then Marc is going to talk a little bit about eco-gifting as we get closer to Christmas.
Yes, the holidays are upon us, Hanukkah and Christmas. And so I just want to make a quick environmental note as we enter the holidays. Please remember our Gift Outside the Box campaign. For anyone still left on your list, consider greener gifting by visiting county businesses, purchasing items that are locally made. This helps us reduce the fuel used by cross-country deliveries and additionally improves our area economy. You could also consider charitable donations in honor of friends and families. My kids often make suggestions about what group I could give money to instead of a present. So it's nice that that's their sentiment, and it's a good way to give and do something good, and somebody knows that something that would have gone to them is going to do something good. And so if you have ideas, or you've got family members who want to do that, or you want somebody to give something in your name, ask for that too. And if you have the means to do so, consider giving back to those that are less fortunate. By purchasing a donation gift certificate, you're ensuring a family won't have to worry about how they're going to feed their family this season. I remind everybody that hunger is still with us. We, added back to our budget another $6 million for food programs in Montgomery County. The people who are handling these food programs are seeing levels of need the same as they were during the pandemic, if not higher. So these needs are still real. People are still not getting the food they need. So anything you can do to help, please do that. You can also consider experiences and giving experiences like a show at Strathmore, the Historic Albany Theater, or the AFI. The holidays are, a time of giving, and what better gift to give than a promise to protect the environment while supporting and promoting businesses in our community. And by working together, we can reduce waste, conserve energy, promote a resilient local economy in the new year and many decades to come. And again, we'll be talking lots and lots about the environment as the year unfolds. There's very little change in COVID case rates from last week. We are in a 2-week stretch in which about 10% of every COVID-19 test taken across Maryland comes back positive. I continue to find friends and associates who have come down with COVID. Everybody I know so far has had fairly mild cases. These numbers, along with the county's wastewater surveillance report, show elevated levels of COVID in our community, but nothing that would take us out of the low risk category. More concerning, though, is the way that a rise in flu cases combined with COVID-19 cases is impacting our emergency room. Too often, demand on emergency rooms or urgent care facilities leads to long waits for patients, exposing those who aren't sick to respiratory illnesses. When hospital beds are at or near capacity, seriously ill patients have to wait in the emergency room until a bed opens, creating more of a logjam and even longer ER wait times. Our health team encourages everyone to know when to visit one of these facilities. Flu and cold symptoms are not life-threatening emergencies and do not require an ER visit or urgent care. The first call should be to a primary care physician. A telehealth visit could be all that's needed, and it could also save time and money by avoiding unnecessary visits to the ER or urgent care centers. Please be aware over the holiday break that more people you see may be showing signs of being sick. Keep a face mask with you if you need it to protect yourself from others. And remember to wash your hands frequently and isolate yourself if you do feel sick. This is the time of year when we start seeing more and more respiratory diseases. So please be careful. And now I'd like to turn the briefing over to the health team before opening it up for questions.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. I will just very, very briefly share one or two metrics. I think our county executive has covered most of the information that you are all looking for. And here we go. So apologies for that. Just to show you here, and the upper chart is showing our emergency visits for respiratory illness that could be RSV, flu, COVID, or something undiagnosed. And you can see that those have been steadily going up now for several weeks. This is making our emergency departments a little more busy than they have been. It can increase wait times. And that's why the messages are going out that if you do not have underlying conditions that put you at greater risk, please try to contact your primary care physician first before going to an ED. You can see in the lower chart there, that is showing the different age groups and how COVID discharge diagnoses have occurred. And you can see for the last few weeks, again, those have been increasing as we've seen since COVID debuted a few years back this time of year. The good news is our hospital inpatients have not gone up significantly at this point. They're holding fairly steady. So what we're seeing is a lot of milder illnesses, and again, people seeking some care, but not many of them are becoming inpatients to this point. And we hope that holds steady. You can see that across COVID, influenza, and RSV nationally, RSV has been very elevated for a while now. And COVID continues to be elevated, whereas influenza is just now going up. And we expect probably to see the worst of that over the next few weeks. So again, for our residents and their visitors, if they're feeling symptomatic with a fever or other flu-like symptoms, please isolate away from other people, wash your hands when you're around folks, and wear a mask if you're going to be around people who are vulnerable. Let's try to reduce these transmissions. This is our local influenza. Again, you can see a little bit more acutely how those are going up. Finally, I just wanted to, again, we mentioned last week that we had our first long-term care facility, Arbor Place Dementia Care, which had gotten 100% of their residents with the updated booster this year. We're very proud of their efforts there. And we wanted to highlight a number of other sites that are now over 75% of their residents. Kensington Park, Maplewood Park Place, Meadows at Brook Grove, Modena Reserve at Kensington, Shady Grove Nursing and Rehabilitation Center, and Sunrise Bethesda have all been doing excellent work with their residents to get them vaccinated. For folks who are listening, if you have a family member or a friend who is in a long-term care facility, please reach out to them to make sure that they have an opportunity to consider getting their shot. These should all be covered by insurance, and so there should be no out-of-pocket costs to the residents. So again, we'll continue to work with all of our long-term care facilities in Montgomery County. We know this is where some of the most vulnerable populations are. And when you visit them again, if you're having any sort of respiratory symptoms, please wear a mask while you're with them. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Davis or Dr. Bridgers or Dr. Sauter if they have any additional comments.
None for me, Mr. O'Donnell. Ready for questions.
Yeah, I just want to touch on a few things. Dr. Davis, did you have anything? I apologize.
No, nothing additional. Just the best gift you can give right now is getting your COVID vaccine if you haven't gotten it already. So take this time, especially if you've got some downtime before the end of the year. January is when we probably expect to see COVID at its highest, and so now is a great time to get that vaccine if you haven't done so already.
Thank you. And so I have a few things on public safety I want to touch on. Last week, we graduated our most recent police recruit class. That total for graduation in that class was 22. But the good thing is that for all of calendar year 23, we will have graduated 45 police recruits to Montgomery County Police Department compared to 22 in calendar year 22. So we had a much greater success this year in getting people in. Our next class starts on January 29th. There are still they're going through the process now, and we're very hopeful that this class will actually be larger than the class that we just graduated, which is great progress. But the really good progress is for applications that are already coming in for our August of 24 class. We're already at a third of the total that we received for all of the class that starts in January 29th. So we are really seeing an uptick in applications moving forward, and we're very pleased with the level of recruiting that we're seeing an increase in. We will continue to take efforts to address our police recruiting progress at the direction of the county executive. We'll be looking at some additional changes, and we'll be working with the council to make changes, which will ultimately potentially allow us to rehire retired officers in Montgomery County to come back and work in key positions that we can't fill in our emergency communications center, our telephone reporting unit, and some of our other essential services that will allow us to have more patrol officers focused on patrol-based services. On Monday night, we also had our Reimagining Public Safety update. And what that showed over the last 6 months, we've actually, as a reminder, there are 402 total recommendations to reimagine public safety, improve service for our residents, and actually have the police focus more on police-related activities and not responding to things like mental health calls, for example. We've completed 46 additional recommendations out of those 402 over the last 6 months. So we went from a 57% completion rate in July, and now we're up to a 67% completion rate. And so we continue to make good progress on that as well. And so all those updates just want to provide on the public safety side. So thanks.
So Earl should have said that, in fact, not only do we get 22 new officers to join the Montgomery County Police Department, the Academy actually graduated more than a dozen other people who joined the Sheriff's Office, the Gaithersburg Police Department, and the Park Police. So all people who are contributing to the public safety within our community. Monday night, the county executive, Dr. Bridgers, Dr. Davis, all attended the graduation ceremony for an incredible program we operate out of the Department of Health and Human Services, the Welcome Back Center, which helps immigrants, foreign trained medical professionals get their U.S. certifications so that they can be welcomed back into the careers that they had abroad. And we can fill critical spots within the healthcare system by having people who may have, got that nursing degree in their home country, that medical degree in that home country. And this is an opportunity for them to get certified and get back into their chosen field and contribute to the healthcare needs of our county and our region. So a wonderful program that serves a critical need in our community. So with that, questions for any one of us or all of us? Any gift suggestions to add to the county executives? Because there are still some holes I know on my list. Nope. That everyone's being, we've answered every question as usual. So I know tomorrow I'm going to get my COVID vaccine. I'm embarrassed to say I'm a little bit behind, but I certainly, with the holidays and seeing people, I want to make sure I've got that vaccination in arm.
I beat you to it.
Yes, I know. I know I'm a little bit behind. Got the flu vaccine though, thanks to HHS.
I
So,
got that, and I got the RSV too. So I've got all three.
yeah. Well, everyone knows you're significantly older than me when it comes to RSV.
Yeah.
So,
This is the case where age matters.
okay. Well, thank you all very much for joining. If we don't have any questions, everyone have a happy holiday week and a happy new year.